In this module, we will first go over the learning objective, then move on to 5 basic questions that aim to assist you as you evaluate research literature, and end with an expert video from Margaret Sampson, a librarian at CHEO. After completing Module 1, Critically Evaluating Research Literature, you will understand the principles of critical evaluation. Dr. Smith has been asked to critically review an article entitled Association Between Serum Cholesterol and Eating Behaviors During Early Childhood, a Cross-Sectional Study, for Journal Club. As he read through the article, he asked himself the following 5 questions. What is the research question? Whom is the study about? What is the research design? Does the study show evidence of validity and reliability? Is the study original? What is the research question? To determine the research question, Dr. Smith looked in the abstract and the introduction. He started by determining which of the 4 intents, therapy, diagnosis and screening, prognosis, or causation, the research falls under. Then he narrowed it down to the research question itself. Asking, what is the research question, helps you identify the reason for the study and compare it to that of your own work. Once Dr. Smith knew the research question, he looked closely at how it was framed. A good start to this was asking, whom is the study about? Some things he considered were participant selection, inclusion-exclusion criteria, and participant setting. How are participants selected? A truly random sample gives the entire population an equal chance of being selected to participate. Who is included or excluded? If certain individuals were excluded, the results of the research cannot be said to apply to them. If the inclusion criteria were very specific, the results may not be applicable to every individual. What was the setting of the participants? The results for an individual in a hospital setting could be completely different from that same individual's results in their real life. Dr. Smith found information about study participants in the methods section of the article. A study might target teens aged 13 to 17 recruited in rural hospitals across Ontario. This study, however, looked at children aged 3 to 5 years recruited through their primary care centers in Toronto. This question helps you see where your work could expand upon previous research by changing the selection boundaries or processes. The intervention applied to the population, the comparison taking place, and the outcome to be measured are all influenced by the research design. Dr. Smith examined them further by asking, what is the research design? A primary study is a first-hand analysis of either an experimental or observational nature. Experimental studies are those in which the researcher interferes with the subjects to create some synthetic state. Observational studies involve no interventions, only observations in a natural state. Primary studies include laboratory experimentation, clinical trials, surveys, and organized case studies, etc. A secondary study integrates multiple primary studies by summarizing and drawing conclusions from them. Such a study could take the form of overviews, guidelines, decision analyses, etc. There are differing levels of evidence provided by different types of studies. Systematic reviews and meta-analyses are secondary studies. They combine the results of several types of evidence, including RCTs. Meta-analyses also implement statistics to combine the results more effectively. RCTs are experimental studies that offer ideal conditions for comparison as they have a control group and an intervention group, and can often use blindness. Cohort studies are primary studies that follow a control group and an intervention group over time. They can be experimental or observational using either an intervention group or an exposure group. Case control studies are observational studies in which each case is matched with a control, and both are studied in order to determine the cause of their outcomes. Dr. Smith found that the study described in the article is an observational study. There was no intervention applied to the participants. Rather, the investigators assessed their blood samples relative to their responses to a questionnaire. This question helps you examine the methods for good research practices. Note that dissecting the research design can be tricky, and checklists specific to each research intent and design can help you evaluate the methods and results further. Once Dr. Smith understood the study design, he asked himself, does the study show evidence of validity and reliability? Validity is the extent to which the research measures what it set out to measure. If the research question changed from the beginning of the study to the end, chances are it is not valid for its initial purpose. Reliability is the extent to which the results are reproducible. If a study consistently reaches the same result or nearly the same result with the same participant, it is deemed reliable. Dr. Smith noted that validity was referenced in the discussion section of the article. The study results were compared to those from previously executed studies, and the results were consistent. Dr. Smith also noted that there was no reference to reliability in the article. In order to show evidence of reliability in the study, someone would have to replicate the study and find nearly the same results. This question helps you assess whether the study results are consistent with real life and thus whether the study results are applicable. Finally, Dr. Smith asked himself, is the study original? A study does not need to be groundbreaking to be original, as long as it adds to the current literature in some way. For example, validating a previous work. By pushing the boundaries of knowledge a little bit further, then it can be considered original. Originality depends on the depth of the literature review of the investigator, as if they miss some major work, their entire study could end up reinventing the wheel. Many studies will conclude with suggestions of where research could be further developed. This encourages future investigators and can help point them in the direction of some original work still left to do. Dr. Smith found that the study was original because it expanded and built upon previous literature, offered additional information, and proposed future work on the subject to help continue the area of study. This question helps you evaluate how the study contributes to the academic conversation and how yours could do the same. Asking yourself, what is the research question? Whom is the study about? What is the research design? Does the study show evidence of validity and reliability? And is the study original? As Dr. Smith did, will not only help you gain valuable insight into the research of others, but it could also enable further development of your own research.
Hi, I'm Margaret Sampson. I'm the librarian here at CHEO, and I'm going to do a little bit today on critical appraisal. So critical appraisal is the idea of taking a research study and deciding if it's suitable for your clinical practice. So it's one of the key skills in evidence-based medicine. So usually when we look at a research paper, we jump right to the results, but that's really only one of 4 things that we should be taking a look at. The first is the study design. So is it a design that can answer your question? For example, an RCT is a very strong design to answer a treatment effectiveness question, but if you're looking at patient preferences, a qualitative design would be much stronger. Then, if it's a good design, you want to see if it's fairly free from bias. So have as many steps as possible been taken to protect the results. And a well-done study that way is more likely to stand the test of time. Now that's probably the hardest part, because what makes a good diagnostic study is very different from what makes a good treatment study. And so there we go to checklists. And CASP is a really good source to get checklists. They have one for every possible design, I think. CASP is Critical Appraisal Skills Program. And if you just Google CASP checklist, you'll find it. So if we've got a good design, then we look at the results, and there it's really helpful to try and translate that into numbers needed to treat, numbers needed to harm, instead of just taking the results as they're presented. And then the 4th thing that we want to look at always, and it's probably the most important, is do those results apply to your treatment situation? So 4 steps to go through every time. We use checklists to help. I can help you find a good article to study if you're doing journal club, let's say, and I can also help you with the checklists. And so those 4 things, that's really the nuts and bolts of critical appraisal.
Now that you have completed Module 1, Critically Evaluating Research Literature, you will understand the principles of critical evaluation. Critically evaluating research literature involves identifying the intent of the study, scrutinizing the selection of participants, dissecting the research design, checking the consistency of the design, and considering the contribution of the study.